7 to 1. St. Jonathan 8 to 1. That stayed at the same price right from the beginning of the betting. Miller Hill 20 to 1, so is Omnipotent. Noblissimo 22 to 1. Stormy Spring and Ryman 25 to 1. The Trumpsters 33s. On 40 to 1, Boreen Door and Champagne Charlie, and it's 50 to 1 bar.
There in the red jacket is the 8 to 1 shot, St. Jonathan, ridden by John Joe O'Neill. And isn't it good to see him here after so many reports, unfavourable ones in the press over the last week about John Joe having one leg on and one leg off? Well, here he is. It was only flu, he's shaken it off, and he was looking well when we saw him before racing. Half free, 11 to 4 favourite, from 3 to 1, 11 to 2 bar. But St. Jonathan, John Joe's mount there, used to be trained by Barry Hills, and there was a tremendous...
Thank you, Richard. Yes, the white flag up. And John Frankham and Half Free jump off well with Champagne Charlie and Ryman right up with them. And the blinkered Ryman is going to land over the first of the 8 flights in the lead. Ryman doesn't jump it too well, but hit the top of it, but got away with it. And all 19 safely over the first. They make their way towards the second flight. Ryman in the lead from Champagne Charlie and Half Free and St. Jonathan. Just in behind them come Tennis Track. Behind Tennis Track is Boreen Door. And then Stormy Spring and Silka Key and Noblissimo. And Okra Bora, on the inside of Okra Bora, Bold Agent. But Ryman, the blinkered Ryman, the only blinkered runner with a commanding advantage as they jump the second. Ryman a long way clear of Champagne Charlie and Boreen Door and Half Free on the inside, St. Jonathan and Okra Bora, and then comes Glasgow Central. Behind them, Boreen Prince, and the back marker at the moment is Shady Nook. And it's still Ryman with a very commanding advantage of about 12 lengths at the moment from Champagne Charlie and Glasgow Central and Boreen Door, and then Okra Bora and Half Free on the inside, and then Tennis Track and Boreen Prince, and then Omnipotent, and on the inner then is Istimure. Behind Istimure is Stormy Spring, and then Silka Key and Noblissimo, and then Mari Venture. And the 3 back markers at the moment are Bold Agent, Shady Nook and Miller Hill. As the leader comes to the third, Ryman jumps it a long way clear of Glasgow Central and Champagne Charlie and Boreen Door and Okra Bora and Half Free on the inside. Just in behind them, St. Jonathan going well, then Stormy Spring. Boreen Prince on the far side with Istimure making progress now. Miller Hill has made a bit of ground, but Ryman has a very commanding advantage as they race towards the 4th of the 8 flights in this Waterford Crystal Supreme Novices Hurdle. Ryman jumps it with Alan Brown, a long way clear of Glasgow Central and Champagne Charlie. Then comes Okra Bora, who made a slight mistake there. Shady Nook jumped it last. Half Free's making ground on the inside, with Boreen Door still very well in contention also. Just in behind them is Istimure. St. Jonathan also not far behind the second group, but the leader coming to the 5th, still a long way clear. Ryman jumps it about 15 lengths clear of Champagne Charlie, then Glasgow Central, then Okra Bora, then Half Free on the inside, then Istimure. Just in behind them, Bold Agent making a bit of progress now. St. Jonathan still very well in touch and beginning to run down the hill with only 3 flights left to jump, and Ryman in splendid isolation at the moment as they race down the hill with only 3 flights left to jump. And Istimure has now moved into second. Bold Agent making ground on the outside. Half Free making ground on the inner. St. Jonathan coming there quite strongly too. Coming down to the 3rd last flight now. Ryman jumped it a long way clear of Istimure, Bold Agent, then on the inside Half Free, and Boreen Prince also making very good progress with Miller Hill also. But it's Ryman for the north of England with a commanding advantage still from 4 Irish pursuers now. Bold Agent, Istimure, Boreen Prince and Miller Hill, and Istimure has fallen there and has brought down Half Free. Istimure a faller at that one, and Half Free has been brought down, and they're racing now around the home turn And St. Jonathan was brought down, not half free, but half free was interfered with, and he's out of contention. Ryman is coming to it with the advantage now, the clear advantage over Bold Agent, Miller Hill and Boreen Prince. Ryman lands in the lead, Bold Agent lands second, Miller Hill lands third, racing into the closing stages, and it's Ryman being pressed by Miller Hill, and then Bold Agent, and then Omnipotent putting in a tremendous run in the closing stages. And Miller Hill beginning to get up on the near side now, coming to challenge and take it up, and Miller Hill looks as though he's going to win it. And as they come to the line, Miller Hill has won it. In second place is Ryman, third is Bold Agent in a photo with Omnipotent. Behind him came Boreen Prince and Noblissimo, and then Mari Venture. Behind Mari Venture was Champagne Charlie, and looking right back to the back markers, Stormy Spring and Tennis Track. The back markers, and so the result of the Waterford Crystal Supreme Novices Hurdle. First, number 15, Miller Hill, owned by Mr. J.L. Harvey, trained in Ireland by Desi Hughes and ridden by Tom Morgan. Second was number 19, Ryman, owned by Mr. David Slater, trained by Peter Easterby, ridden by Alan Brown, and it's a photograph for third place. A photograph between Bold Agent and Omnipotent, between number 2 Bold Agent and Omnipotent number 25. But no doubt about the 1-2. Let's review the closing stages again with Richard Pittman.
And what price would you have given about Ryman as he came round the last bend? He must have been 10 lengths clear of his pursuers, who were well strung out. Istemiwa had made a terrible mistake. He was on the floor but actually got up at the second last and interfered terribly with half free. But just now look at Tommy Morgan, who's bringing Millway right over to the outside of the course. He's obviously done his homework and he's walked the track. He's decided to come up the outside rail where the ground is best. Ryman, though, starting to go nowhere. That headstrong gallop all the way that looked like paying off has now been his undoing. He's wandering all over the course. He nearly went to go round again, and he must be feeling desperately tired. A terrible position for Alan Brown to be in. But Tommy Morgan and Miller Hill coming up the stand side on the best ground. I wonder how many of the other riders will do that later on, and the photograph there looks as if Bold Agent has got third place.